The part of you that you keep hiding may be the very part that carries the key to your purpose. This is why anxiety can feel so confusing. You try to become calmer, more acceptable, more controlled, more spiritual, more pleasant, more admirable. You try to remove everything inside you that seems dark, difficult, jealous, angry, needy, ambitious, sensual, wounded, or inconvenient. Yet the more you try to become only light, the more something inside you begins to suffer in the dark. A woman can spend years trying to be good, while slowly becoming divided against herself. She learns to smile when resentment is moving through her body. She learns to say she is fine when her chest is tight. She learns to soften her truth, hide her anger, appear mature, and become the kind of woman other people can easily understand. But the soul does not become whole by being understandable to everyone. The soul becomes whole when the forgotten parts of the self are finally allowed to return. I would not ask you to destroy your shadow. I would ask you to listen to it. Your shadow is not simply the worst part of you. It is the place where the life you could not live has been stored. It contains what you were taught to reject, but it also contains energy, instinct, truth, creativity, desire, boundaries, courage, and a kind of power that your persona may be too afraid to touch. Before we go deeper, if this message touches something in you, subscribe to this channel. Here, we explore the feminine psyche, anxiety, the shadow, and the journey back to yourself. Now let us begin with the question that matters most. What if the thing you are most ashamed of is not here to destroy your life, but to reveal where your life has become false? This does not mean you should obey every impulse. It does not mean every dark desire is wise. It does not mean anger, envy, pride, resentment, or fear should rule the soul. It means that what is hidden inside you has meaning. The unconscious does not always speak in gentle language. It speaks through dreams, symptoms, attractions, conflicts, compulsions, projections, and reactions that feel larger than the situation itself. Anxiety is often one of its messengers. Many women treat anxiety as an enemy because it interrupts the image they are trying to maintain. It appears when they are trying to look composed. It rises when they are trying to please. It tightens the chest when a relationship asks for more self-abandonment than the soul can bear. It disturbs sleep when the day has been filled with swallowed words, anger dressed as patience, and desires postponed in the name of being acceptable. Then the woman says, "Something is wrong with me," but I would ask her to look more carefully. Perhaps something inside her is not wrong. Perhaps something inside her is refusing to remain buried. The shadow often begins to form very early. A child does not arrive in the world with a polished mask. She cries when something hurts. She reaches when she needs comfort. She refuses when something feels wrong. She becomes angry when a boundary is crossed. She seeks pleasure without shame. In the beginning, life moves directly through her. Then the world begins to teach her which parts of herself are welcome and which parts disturb the people around her. If her anger is punished, she learns to hide it. If her sensitivity is mocked, she learns to appear stronger than she feels. If her need for attention is called selfish, she becomes skilled at giving attention while struggling to receive it. If her joy is too loud, her desire too visible, her sadness too inconvenient, or her truth too sharp, she begins to divide herself. One part is shown, another part is sent underground. That underground part becomes shadow, and what goes underground does not disappear. It waits. The persona becomes the face she offers to the world. It may be the face of the good daughter, the calm wife, the understanding friend, the strong mother, the spiritual woman, the productive professional, the one who does not complain, the one who can handle everything. The persona is not evil. It helps us live among other people. It gives shape to social life. But when the persona becomes the whole identity, the soul begins to suffocate. A woman may be praised for the very mask that is making her ill. People may admire her patience while her shadow is filled with rage. They may call her generous while her body is exhausted from giving what she never freely chose to give. They may call her peaceful while she is terrified of conflict. They may call her selfless while a hidden part of her is starving for a life that belongs to her. This is where anxiety appears, not as a random disturbance, but as a signal that the inner life and the outer life are no longer in honest relationship. Anxiety may be saying that you cannot continue living only through the mask. It may be pointing to something true that has been left outside your life. It may be revealing that the woman you are performing is no longer large enough to hold the woman you are becoming. This is why the shadow can reveal purpose. Purpose is not always discovered by asking what looks beautiful, noble, successful, or impressive. Sometimes it is found by looking at what disturbs you, what you judge, what you envy, what you avoid, what you secretly desire, what repeatedly triggers you, and what you are afraid to admit about yourself. The shadow points toward unlived life. If you envy a woman who speaks freely, perhaps your own voice has been imprisoned. If you resent people who rest, perhaps exhaustion has become part of your identity. If you judge women who take up space, perhaps your own power has been exiled. If someone's confidence irritates you, perhaps confidence in you was once punished, shamed, or made dangerous. If desire, visibility, success, or intimacy awaken anxiety, they may not be only threats. They may also be doors. The unconscious does not waste energy. The things that disturb you repeatedly often carry a piece of your own lost wholeness. This is not easy to accept because the ego prefers innocence. It wants to believe that the problem is always outside. The other person is arrogant, selfish, dramatic, irresponsible, too free, too bold, too much. Sometimes this may be true, but projection begins when we cannot separate what truly belongs to another person from what has been rejected inside ourselves. A projection is not merely a mistake, it is a message. It shows us where our own inner material has been placed onto someone else. The woman you cannot tolerate may carry a quality you are not allowed to claim. The behavior you condemn may reveal an impulse you have never learned to integrate. The person who fascinates you may be carrying a symbol of your own unlived possibility. To withdraw a projection is painful because it asks for humility. It asks you to stop using the outer world as a screen for your inner conflicts. It asks you to wonder what is being awakened in you, why this person disturbs you so strongly, and what part of your own soul you may have given away. This is shadow work, not romantic darkness, not aesthetic sadness, not the performance of being mysterious. Real shadow work is the courage to stop lying to yourself about yourself. It is the moment when a woman admits that her kindness sometimes hides fear, her patience sometimes hides resentment, her independence sometimes hides the terror of needing anyone. Her spirituality sometimes hides avoidance of ordinary human pain. Her strength sometimes hides the refusal to be held. Her anxiety sometimes hides anger that has never been allowed to stand upright. When these truths are first seen, the ego may feel ashamed. But shame is not the goal. Consciousness is the goal. You do not bring the shadow into the light to humiliate yourself. You bring it into the light so it no longer has to rule you from behind. What remains unconscious becomes fate. You may believe you are choosing freely, while an unseen pattern is choosing through you. You may call it bad luck when you repeatedly enter relationships where you disappear. You may call it personality when you cannot ask for what you need. You may call it destiny when you sabotage opportunities that would make you visible. But if the unconscious pattern is not known, it can direct your life while you believe life itself is against you. This is why purpose cannot be separated from consciousness. A life purpose is not merely a career, a mission, a title, or a dream written beautifully in a notebook. Purpose is the shape your life begins to take when your energy is no longer trapped in self-deception. A woman who has integrated more of herself does not need to waste so much life pretending, pleasing, hiding, defending, or repeating old wounds. Her energy becomes available for creation. Creation requires reclaimed energy, and much of your energy may be hidden in the shadow. Think of anger. Many women fear anger because they have seen it expressed destructively or because they were punished for having it. So they bury it. They become agreeable, gentle, understanding, careful. But anger, in its deepest form, is not only destruction. It is also the force that says, "This is not acceptable." It is the guardian of boundaries. It is the heat that protects life from violation. When anger is unconscious, it may become bitterness, passive aggression, tension, anxiety, or sudden eruptions that frighten even the woman herself. When anger is integrated, it becomes clarity. It helps her say no. It helps her leave what humiliates her. It helps her stop calling disrespect love. It helps her defend the child within her, who had no defender. The shadow does not need to be acted out. It needs to be transformed. Envy is another doorway. A woman may feel ashamed of envy because she believes it makes her small. But envy can be studied as a map. If another woman's freedom irritates you, ask where you are not free. If her success stings, ask whether you have betrayed your own ambition. If her beauty, voice, relationship, courage, creativity, or visibility awakens pain, do not rush to condemn her. Look for the unlived desire in yourself. Envy becomes poisonous when it is denied. It becomes guidance when it is made conscious. The soul may be saying that there is something here you also want to live. This does not mean you must become like the person you envy. It means you must reclaim the energy you projected onto her. Her life may be a symbol, not an instruction. The point is not imitation. The point is the return of your own desire. Even laziness, a word often used with cruelty, can become a doorway. A woman may accuse herself of being lazy when she is actually depleted. Her body refuses because the soul has been overused. She judges the refusal instead of listening to it. Sometimes, what appears as laziness is the rebellion of a body that has been treated like a servant. Sometimes, procrastination hides fear of failure, fear of success, perfectionism, grief, or a lack of real connection to the task. The shadow asks you to look more deeply. If you only attack the symptom, you miss the meaning. A woman who is always tired may not lack discipline. She may lack a life that nourishes her. She may lack permission to rest without guilt. She may be carrying emotional labor that no one sees. She may be living from a persona that says, "I can handle everything," while the shadow whispers that it no longer wants to carry everything alone. Listen to that whisper. It may be the beginning of truth. Purpose often begins not as inspiration, but as discontent. Something in the present life becomes unbearable. A role feels too small. A relationship feels too false. A routine feels empty. A dream that once seemed childish returns. At night, a question appears. Is this really my life, or only the life I learned to perform? This question can create anxiety because it threatens the old structure. But sometimes anxiety is the price of awakening. A woman may prefer the familiar prison because freedom asks for responsibility. If she admits that she wants more, she may have to act. If she admits that she is angry, she may have to set boundaries. If she admits that she has been living through a mask, she may have to disappoint people who loved the mask. If she admits her purpose, she may no longer be able to hide behind confusion. This is why many people say they want purpose while unconsciously resisting the path toward it. Purpose demands honesty. Not perfection, honesty. If this reflection is helping you see your inner life with more courage, like this video now. Let it be a quiet recognition that you are ready to stop fearing your shadow and begin listening to what it has been trying to reveal. Now let us bring this closer to anxiety in relationships. Many women meet their shadow most painfully in love. Love awakens what the persona cannot control. A woman who appears independent may discover dependency. A woman who believes she is calm may discover jealousy. A woman who thinks she is healed may become terrified by silence, distance, or emotional uncertainty. She may feel ashamed of the intensity that rises and try to push it away. But love is often a mirror. It does not only show tenderness. It shows wounds, projections, fears, unconscious bargains, hunger for the parent who was absent, rage at the love that was not received, and the longing to be chosen without performing. When anxiety rises in love, do not rush to call it weakness. Ask what it reveals. Perhaps you are not only afraid of losing the person in front of you, perhaps you are afraid of feeling the old abandonment again. Perhaps you are not only jealous of another woman, perhaps you have placed your own unlived beauty, freedom, or desirability outside yourself. Perhaps you are not only angry at a delayed message, perhaps the silence touches the child who once waited for emotional presence that never came. This does not excuse destructive behavior. It gives you a deeper place to work. The goal is not to let the shadow run the relationship. The goal is to understand the shadow before it possesses you. When jealousy is unconscious, it becomes accusation, control, comparison, obsession. When jealousy is brought into consciousness, it may reveal a longing for reassurance, a wound of invisibility, or a need to reclaim your own sense of worth. When fear of abandonment is unconscious, it clings, tests, pursues, panics. When it is understood, it becomes an invitation to build inner security and choose relationships that do not constantly reopen the same wound. This is how the shadow becomes useful. It shows where you are not yet free. Purpose is connected to freedom because a woman cannot fully offer her gifts while she is possessed by old wounds. She may have talent, intelligence, beauty, sensitivity, spiritual depth, and creative power. But if her energy is trapped in proving her worth, chasing unavailable love, suppressing anger, fearing visibility, or performing goodness, then her purpose remains blocked. The shadow holds the blocked energy. To retrieve it, you must face what you have avoided. There is no meaningful life without descent. The soul does not become whole by rising away from darkness. It becomes whole by entering the places where consciousness has not yet reached. Every myth of transformation contains some version of this descent into the underworld, the forest, the cave, the belly of the monster, the night sea, the hidden chamber. Psychologically, this means entering the parts of yourself you would rather not see. The descent is frightening because you may meet grief, anger, shame, envy, fear, desire, and memories you tried to outgrow. But you may also meet vitality. The shadow is not only pain, it is also power. The woman who was taught to be quiet may find her voice there. The woman who was taught to be modest may find ambition. The woman who was taught to be endlessly understanding may find discernment. The woman who is taught to be pure may find sensuality. The woman who is taught to be useful may find creativity that serves her soul, rather than everyone else's expectations. This is why the shadow is a key. Not because darkness is superior to light, but because rejected life must be reclaimed before wholeness becomes possible. A woman who fears her own darkness will remain dependent on the approval of others to confirm her goodness. She will avoid choices that make her appear selfish, even when those choices are necessary. She will say yes when the soul says no. She will perform peace while resentment grows. She will spiritualize fear and call it compassion. She will mistake the absence of conflict for virtue. But goodness without wholeness becomes fragile. It requires constant repression. A whole woman is not harmless. She is conscious. She knows her capacity for anger and does not need to be ruled by it. She knows her envy and can learn from it. She knows her desire and can choose how to honor it. She knows her fear and does not let it write the entire story. She knows she is capable of light and darkness, and because she knows this, she becomes more responsible, not less. This is important. Shadow integration does not make a person more dangerous. Unconscious shadow does. The person who believes they have no darkness is often the one most likely to project it, act it out, or justify it. The woman who cannot admit resentment may become quietly cruel. The woman who cannot admit desire may manipulate to get what she wants without naming it. The woman who cannot admit envy may disguise it as moral superiority. The woman who cannot admit anger may call her silence peace, while punishing others emotionally. Consciousness brings responsibility. It says, "This lives in me, and because I know it, I can choose my relationship to it." That is maturity. Not the maturity of looking good, the maturity of being real. Now I want to speak to the woman who is afraid that if she looks at her shadow, she will find something unbearable. You may believe that the hidden parts of you are monstrous. Perhaps you have spent so long controlling yourself that you imagine any forbidden emotion will destroy you if it is allowed into consciousness. But the shadow becomes more frightening when it remains unseen. When you turn toward it with steadiness, you may discover that it is not a demon, but an abandoned child, a silenced voice, a protective anger, a tired body, a desire for life. The monster changes when it is listened to. This does not mean every impulse is innocent. It means every impulse has a history. To understand that history is not to obey the impulse. It is to bring it into relationship with consciousness. A woman can feel rage and choose not to wound. She can feel envy and choose to learn. She can feel desire and choose integrity. She can feel fear and choose courage. Without consciousness, the emotion chooses for her. With consciousness, she can choose how to carry the emotion. This is the beginning of freedom, and freedom is essential to purpose. You cannot live your purpose while being ruled by what you refuse to know about yourself. The unexamined shadow will sabotage the path. It may make you hide when visibility comes. It may make you choose partners who keep you small. It may make you attack women who embody the freedom you secretly want. It may make you procrastinate on the work that matters because success would threaten your old identity. It may make you call your dreams unrealistic when the deeper truth is that you are afraid of what they would demand from you. Purpose does not only ask what you want to do, it asks who you must become in order to do it. And that question always leads to the shadow. If your purpose requires visibility, you must face the part of you that fears being seen. If it requires leadership, you must face your relationship with power. If it requires love, you must face your fear of dependency and rejection. If it requires creativity, you must face perfectionism, envy, comparison, and the old voices that told you your expression did not matter. Purpose is not separate from psychological work. It grows from it. This is why external success alone does not satisfy the soul. A woman may achieve many things and still feel empty if the achievements were created only by the persona. She may become admired for a life that is not truly hers. She may collect accomplishments, while the shadow continues to hold the unlived dream. The world may applaud, but the soul remains quiet because it was not included. A meaningful life requires the participation of the deeper self. The deeper self does not always speak in convenient language. It may speak through restlessness, dreams, dissatisfaction, symptoms, attraction to certain symbols, repeated conflicts, sudden tears, or the strange feeling that a life which looks correct is not true. Do not dismiss these signs too quickly. They may be the soul knocking. Now let us speak about action. Many women use reflection to avoid action. They analyze, journal, understand, read, watch, plan, and wait until they feel completely ready. Reflection is valuable, but if it never becomes embodied, it turns into another form of avoidance. The unconscious is not transformed by thought alone. It is transformed through lived experience. You discover courage by acting while afraid. You discover your voice by speaking. You discover boundaries by placing them. You discover purpose by walking toward it before the entire path is visible. The ego often wants certainty before movement. The soul rarely offers that. It gives symbols, hints, discomfort, longing, and sometimes a fear that points toward the task. The path is revealed by participation. This is why fear can become a guide. Not every fear is a command to retreat. Some fear appears at the threshold of growth. It rises because the old identity knows it may not survive the next step. If you are afraid to be visible, perhaps visibility is part of your task. If you are afraid to speak, perhaps voice is part of your task. If you are afraid to stop pleasing, perhaps truth is part of your task. If you are afraid to leave a role, perhaps the soul has outgrown it. Fear must be interpreted. It is not always wisdom. Sometimes it is the guardian of the door you need to open. A woman may say, "I do not feel ready." But readiness is often created by the act itself. The first step may be imperfect, trembling, small, and full of uncertainty. Still, it matters. The psyche learns from action. Each act aligned with the deeper self teaches the body that a new life is possible. This is how purpose becomes real. Not as a fantasy that lives only in the mind, but as a series of choices that slowly reshape the world around you. The woman who begins to integrate her shadow does not wait to become fearless. She listens to the fear, understands what it protects, and then asks whether the fear should lead. Sometimes it should. Fear can warn you of danger. But when fear only protects an old cage, the self may ask you to move anyway. This movement does not need to be grand. It may begin with one honest conversation, one boundary, one page written, one application sent, one decision to rest, one admission of desire, one refusal to laugh at something that humiliates you, one moment of saying, "This is not the life I came here to keep performing." Small acts carry symbolic power. The unconscious understands symbols. When you act differently, even in a small way, You give the psyche a new image of who you are becoming. You are no longer only the woman who hides. You are the woman who takes one step. That image begins to work inside you. This is why action and inner work belong together. Inner work without action can become a beautiful prison. Action without inner work can become repetition under another name. Together, they create transformation. Now let us return to the idea of purpose. Your purpose is not necessarily a single profession or a grand destiny announced from the sky. It may express itself through work, love, motherhood, art, healing, teaching, building, writing, protecting, leading, creating beauty, telling the truth, breaking a generational pattern, or simply becoming a more conscious human being. Purpose is the way your life becomes meaningful when your deepest nature begins to participate in your choices. The shadow reveals purpose because it shows where your deepest nature has been blocked. If you have hidden your voice, purpose may involve speaking. If you have abandoned your body, purpose may involve returning to embodied life. If you have lived for approval, purpose may involve truth. If you have carried inherited silence, purpose may involve naming what no one named. If you have been ruled by anxiety, purpose may involve learning to stand at the center of yourself and helping others do the same. The wound and the gift often live close to each other, not because suffering is romantic, but because the place where you were wounded may become the place where consciousness is most needed. A woman who has known abandonment may develop deep sensitivity to the abandoned parts of others. A woman who has struggled with silence may become a voice. A woman who has lived under shame may become a presence that restores dignity. A woman who has faced her shadow may become less afraid of the shadow in the world. But this only happens when the wound is made conscious. An unconscious wound repeats itself. A conscious wound can become wisdom. This is not automatic. Pain alone does not make a person wise. Many people suffer and become more defended, more bitter, more unconscious. Wisdom appears when suffering is met with consciousness, humility, and the willingness to be changed by truth. So do not ask only what happened to you. Ask what this experience has asked you to understand. Do not ask only why you suffered. Ask what part of your life is now calling for consciousness. These questions do not erase pain. They give pain a direction. A meaningful life is not a life without darkness. A life without darkness would be shallow, because joy has depth only when you have known grief. Courage has meaning only when fear was present. And truth becomes precious when you have lived the cost of pretending. The light of consciousness is not valuable because darkness never existed. It is valuable because something in you chose to bring light there. This is the human task. To light meaning in the darkness of mere existence, not by denying suffering, but by entering life deeply enough that suffering becomes part of a larger transformation. When a woman begins to live this way, she no longer asks life to be only easy. She asks to become more real. She understands that setbacks, conflicts, fear, and loss may become material for consciousness. She stops believing that the presence of difficulty means she is on the wrong path. Sometimes difficulty means she is touching something essential. Of course, not all suffering is meaningful in itself. Some suffering must be ended, not interpreted forever. Some relationships must be left. Some patterns must be interrupted. Some environments do not need spiritual explanations. They require action. The shadow path is not an excuse to tolerate harm. It is a way of becoming conscious enough to respond to life with truth. This distinction matters. Integration is not passivity. It is not sitting in pain and calling it destiny. It is becoming honest about what the pain reveals, then acting from a deeper center. Now I want to give you a practice. Before I do, think of one woman who is afraid of her own shadow. A woman who feels anxious because she believes the darker parts of her make her unworthy. Send this video to her. Sometimes, a woman does not need another command to be better. She needs permission to become whole. For the next 7 days, practice what I call the Shadow Key Journal. Each night, choose one moment from the day when you felt emotionally charged. It may have been irritation, envy, anxiety, resentment, shame, attraction, fear, or a reaction that felt stronger than the situation itself. Do not begin by judging it. Write the moment down as simply as you can. Then ask what the emotion may have been protecting, hiding, or revealing. If you felt irritated by someone's freedom, ask where you are not free. If you envied someone's visibility, ask what part of you wants to be seen. If you felt anxious when you were about to speak, ask what truth has become dangerous in your history. If you judged someone harshly, ask whether a forbidden part of you is being projected outward. Do not force an answer. Let the question work on you. After that, write one small action that would honor the reclaimed energy in a conscious way. If the shadow revealed anger, perhaps the action is a boundary. If it revealed envy, perhaps the action is one step toward your own desire. If it revealed exhaustion, perhaps the action is real rest. If it revealed fear of visibility, perhaps the action is allowing yourself to be seen in one small, honest way. This practice is not about indulging the shadow. It is about translating shadow into consciousness. At the end of the week, look for patterns. The same themes may appear, the same triggers, the same longings, the same fears. These are not random. They are clues. Somewhere inside them, life is asking to return. This is how the shadow becomes a key, not by remaining hidden and not by taking control, but by being brought into relationship with the self. Now write in the comments the city where you are watching from and tell me if this message made sense to you. What part of your shadow do you think may be hiding a piece of your purpose? Is it your anger, your envy, your fear, your desire, your silence, your sensitivity, or the part of you that is tired of pretending? If this reflection spoke to your soul, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Here, we continue exploring the feminine psyche, anxiety, the shadow, and the journey back to yourself. Your shadow is not the end of your goodness. It is the beginning of your wholeness. The purpose of life is not to become a perfect image of light. It is to become conscious enough to hold the truth of your own nature without being destroyed by it. The darkness you fear may contain the strength you need. The emotion you reject may carry a message from the soul. The part of you that you hide may be the part that knows the way. Do not worship the shadow. Do not fear it. Listen to it. Bring it into the light of consciousness, and you may discover that what you called darkness was also a door. Behind that door lives energy, truth, courage, desire, and the purpose that could never be found while you were trying to be only acceptable. The woman who integrates her shadow no longer lives as a mask begging for approval. She becomes a whole being, and from that wholeness, her life begins to reveal its meaning. I see you in my next video.